Hey folks, I'm Chris Thornton. If you're ever doing any artwork and you're drawing a picture of someone, getting the eyes right is one of the most key things. And initially the eyes look quite complex, but actually they can be quite easy to draw. Let me show you how. When I draw an eye, I like to start down in the corner, just where the little pink bit is. The vestigial remnants of the nictating membrane and the tear ducts are just there as well if you're drawing someone who happens to be crying for either out of happiness or sadness. That's normally a good place to start. From there, generally speaking, people's eyes go more or less horizontally, about halfway across. And then, most people's eyes go up a little bit. Over the top, they tend to go up quite steeply, and then down. And these two meet. Now there's going to be some variation. You're going to need to look closely at your subject, but this is the basic shape. So roughly horizontal, then up a bit, up quite steeply, that's about a 45-degree angle, and across about a third of the way, and then down at a gentler angle. And then you need to draw your pupil in there. And the pupil is not going to be entirely visible. Oh, sorry, the pupil and the iris is not going to be entirely visible. You're only going to be able to see some of it. It's normally going to be touching the bottom here, and it's going to start just over halfway up the sort of circle of the iris there. The size of the pupil, incidentally, is going to indicate all sorts of things. Generally speaking, if someone is in a sort of seductive mood, then the pupil is going to be larger, or if they're in a sort of dark area, then the pupil is going to be larger. This is the basic shape of the eye. You can also add some little lines here just to suggest the musculature of the iris. Now, if you want to make a female eye, all you need to do is add some more distinct eyelashes. Male eyes, of course, they do have eyelashes, but men rarely wear mascara, so they're not quite as pronounced, whereas in women it tends to be much more pronounced. So you can use a thicker line up here, and you might even want to sweep it out a little bit just here, and the same along the bottom. In fact, if you're drawing it in quite a lot of detail, you may even want to add individual lashes on there. There we go. So this is a basic eye. However, you don't actually necessarily need to put all that amount of detail in. I've drawn this quite large. It depends on what size of a picture you're drawing. If you're drawing a smaller picture, where the eye isn't going to take up that much space, then you don't actually need to put in quite as much detail. Watch what I mean. I can get the same effect where it's still distinctly an eye, and I don't even draw the whole part of where the nictating membrane is there, and I can just draw a single line there, and here along the bottom you don't even need to finish the line. And then you could get into drawing the whole pupil and everything in, but if you're drawing a smaller image, you can just draw the whole thing and colour it in, all in one colour. And people will still recognise that as an eye. Like most species, we're evolved to recognise faces, which is why something as simple as this is something that we recognise as a face. So you can play fast and loose a little bit with how you draw things like eyes. You can skip some of the details and it'll give you a cleaner image, particularly if you're working in something like a comic book format. This kind of thing is going to be more useful. Again, if you want to make this a female eye, you could just make this a thicker line here. And you might want to make this a little thicker along the bottom. You may even want to put a bit more of an eyelash just there. But we can skip drawing the whole thing and still get the impression of the eye. You may want to leave a little mark there as well to show some light being reflected in the eye. It's up to you. I'd leave it blank for a start, and if it doesn't look right, then you can always fill it in afterwards. A couple last things. Firstly, as you're looking at the shape of people's eyes, remember not everyone is going to have exactly the same shape of eye. It varies from ethnicity to ethnicity and from culture to culture. The one key thing, there are an awful lot of ethnicities, particularly from sort of Southeastern Asia, that have an extra part to the eye which most European eyes don't. That's something known as an epicanthic fold. It's an extra fold of skin just on the inside here. So just going down there. So if you're drawing someone of that ethnicity, then it's the same sort of thing again. And again, I'll just draw this simplified eye, but you're going to need just, I'm exaggerating it slightly. There we go. You're going to need to just show a little bit of an overlap there to indicate the epicanthic fold. That's pretty much it. One more thing which you need to be aware of though is how the eye expresses emotion. If someone's very angry, then the eye will tend to be wider and you'll be able to see a lot more whites. You'll probably be able to see the bottom of the iris there and it'll be open quite wide. If they're sleepy or if they're feeling seductive, then the eye will tend to be not quite so open. Often if people are looking seductive, then this whole upper part of the eye and even the pupil there will be touching the upper part of the lid there and it won't be open anywhere near as much. Likewise, bear in mind that if they're in a bright situation, then that pupil is going to be much smaller, and if they're in a dark situation, then it's much wider to open up light. But that's really all there is to drawing an eye. The only other thing when it comes to expression is don't forget the eyebrows. We pretty much know how the eyebrows go. If they're doing this sort of thing, then someone is feeling angry or possibly devious. If they're doing this sort of thing, then they're going to be quite surprised. If you've got one that's arching a lot more than the other, then that looks kind of quizzical or possibly sarcastic. I hope this video helps you with your artwork, and keep checking back on the channel because I'll be doing other videos on how to draw other facial features in future. In the meantime, it'd be great if you could leave a comment or a like below, or you can check out my other videos just here and here, or just click here to subscribe. Thanks for watching.